Okay, it's been a while since I made a YouTube video. It's been a minute. But I have been reading manga, and I actually finally read a series that's been sitting in my collection forever. I collected the whole thing because it's one of the most highly regarded series of all time. It was like number one on Mal for a very, very long time. I think it finally Freeran popped ahead of it, but I'm talking about Full Metal Alchemist. And while I love the Full Metal Alchemist Full Metal editions, seriously, I feel like those are some of the best looking manga in my collection. But I just never got around to reading it, and I finally read all 18 volumes. And something happened. Because I think we've all experienced hype for a series. You know, Kakurabachi is a perfect example. But I'm talking about like even legacy series. Those series that you see in everyone's manga collections. You know? The Mobile Suit Gundams, the Vagabonds, the Berserks. The list just keeps going on. But you know those series that I'm talking about. And I think when someone tries to come in, especially, I watch a lot of content. I read a lot of things about I don't know if you know this about me. I love this stuff. It's shocking, I know. But if you can't tell from behind me, I love this stuff. So I think that when you hear about something, and you hear about a series over and over and over again, it kind of gets built up. And while I think a lot of us are able to not take that hype, right? Be like, listen, whoa, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna make up my own mind. I think regardless, it still kind of gets built up in your head, I know that there are some series, even in this collection, Attack on Titan is another one that I feel like, I'm really going to love, so I'm kind of weirdly saving it for a rainy day, right? Like, hey, I'm going to collect this series. I know it's good. Like, I've read enough of it or watched enough of the anime to know that it's good, but I'm going to kind of save it because I know when I read it, I have so much other stuff to read that I'm going to want to binge read that thing. And that's kind of what I did finally with Full Metal Alchemist. And while I enjoy the series, and I actually think the series is really good, it's not the author's best work. You know what I stand by? I stand by Silver Spoon. Have you read Silver Spoon? I'll always say Silver Spoon to me is that author's best work. I had heard a little bit about Silver Spoon, whether it be the anime or the manga, but it wasn't built up like Full Metal Alchemist. Because in that conversation, they were always like, yeah, Silver Spoon's good, but Full Metal Alchemist is like this author's masterpiece, this masterwork. And while I really loved a lot of the characters in Full Metal, Alphonse specifically. Listen, if I had to do my top 3 characters right now, this little Full Metal video, Alphonse, Scar, Roy Mustang. That's where I'm landing. Those characters were really fun, and like their story and their arc, Alphonse especially, I stand on that, like especially from the brothers, right? I like Alphonse's arc. Just I could go into detail, and this is kind of a Full Metal video, so I'm going to. Alphonse's arc, spoiler warning, stop it right here. Alphonse's arc, going from kind of listening to what his big brother always told him to do, to early on in the series not even knowing if he is real, to coming into his own, to accepting that he is now this metal suit of armor and using it to his advantage to travel through the cold and like get to the people that he needed to get to, and stepping into that thing, to getting trapped into the rock and accepting that, and accepting to give up his body and getting his body back, and just that whole character arc. I really enjoyed the stuff about Alphonse, and I think the writing is really good. But what happened to me with Full Metal is, because I think I had heard so much about it, where I'm like, it's good. And it didn't reach that great level to me. And it's kind of my own fault, maybe. Because I had heard so much on the internet, and I don't know if it could have ever reached that height. But do you think that there are legacy series, like a Full Metal or something like that, that can maybe never reach... You learn so much about them, or it gets built up and put into this grand scale. Like, I think what's going to be interesting is One Piece got its resurgence, especially in North America. And that's kind of what I'm going to speak on, because I live in North America, right? One Piece got its resurgence in North America. and it is considered one of the greatest anime of all time, one of the greatest manga series of all time, a magnum opus of Oda's. Is there going to come a time, and maybe this time exists now, where it has been built up into this reverence that new readers and new watchers of the anime, it will never achieve the feelings that it gives fans now, or especially fans from back in the day. Like, imagine being a North American fan of One Piece, because even me growing up, like, One Piece was kind of mentioned, but it had nowhere near the following it does now. Nowhere near the following it has in Japan at any point. Like, Toonami hardly even aired One Piece. You know what One Piece got? Kids WB. Sanji had a lollipop.
From me, Sanji, I was trapped.
By those boy brains.
You know what I mean? So, those fans that really discovered this series and really enjoyed it is because the hype and the reverence for that series is so amazing, and it's put on this pedestal now. Is there going to come a time where new fans can't even really get into it? Because they're going to be like, yeah, it's good, dude. I mean, you know, I've heard so many grand things about it. It's been hyped up to oblivion and back that there's no way that they can connect with a series because of that. Like, is that going to be a bad thing? Like, is hype a bad thing? And I kind of experienced with this series, and it really got me thinking, and I think it became an interesting, like, thought to have, so that's why I wanted to make this video, is, are there going to be series, and especially the massively popular ones, that a disservice is done because of the hype? You know, I think Kakurabachi is such an interesting example, because I know you guys remember I've made a video about it. Like, the internet exploded before the even first chapter came out. The memes started. And I think I even said in that video, a series that gets this meme treatment, like it's the greatest thing ever, it's going to fail. And for Kakurabachi to not only fail and to, like, succeed, and I've been somewhat keeping up with it, and the people that I conversate with online and stuff, it seems like Kakurabachi kind of is the exemption to the rule. Like, it kind of powered through what could have easily killed it, because I'm sure, and let's talk in the comments, like, I'm sure there are series that you remember of, like, the hype that it received so early on was actually a hindrance to it. It actually, I think, hurt that series. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I should have done a little bit more research before turning on this camera, but I'm sure you guys know, like, we could talk in the comments. I'd be really interested in that. Is, I think we've seen it before where a series gets so much hype in it, and it might be good or it might be great in the beginning, but getting that internet culture around it kind of sunk that ship. And while I think hype is a good thing, and I think especially in the age of YouTube and TikTok and social media and stuff, I believe new series need a good bit of that to kind of break through, right? Because I have seen some series that have not caught on, even in one of the most popular magazines about manga, which is Shonen Jump. Like, greens. I'll stand on this hill. Listen, it got axed. All right, I think that series is pretty good, and I think Viz finally announced that they are maybe just digitally releasing the volumes. I'll put it on screen right now, but you know, I've seen series since, like, doing YouTube videos and really getting into manga that have been axed, and it's because, like, nobody talked about it. But where is that fine line of no one talking about it and kind of being like this hidden gem that catches on just enough to keep going and really find its stride, right? Like, Hitman Reborn started out as a gag manga and then morphed into something completely different, what it's known for now and what it's popular for now. But it needed that time to become what it became. And I wonder, especially with how stuff moves now. Stuff moves so fast. Like, trends can live and die in 24 hours, you know? like a fruit fly. Little known fact, you know. Hey, I haven't made a video in a while. Hit you with a fruit fly little info. 24 hours. Watch it be wrong. No, I'm pretty sure it's the fruit fly that has a 24-hour lifespan. But internet culture moves so fast now that when are publishers not going to give a series enough time to maybe become what it can be? Like, what is that runway like now for series? Because I think it's just going to get shorter and shorter and shorter. And I think that I have personally seen some of that where it's like, oh, it got, 20 chapters, 50 chapters. And a lot of these legacy series, because maybe stuff didn't move so fast, or maybe the goalpost was a little closer and now it's getting further and further away, because you have stuff that is some of the highest grossing stuff now. There's so much money to be made in manga and anime because the stuff's just getting more and more popular. I mean, anime films in North America got released in theaters and became some of the highest grossing films of the year, of all time, with Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man. So all these films are getting released and all this money can be made now, that it does feel like we are getting into that era of not getting in enough time. Anime series get canceled quicker. Manga series don't get as many chapters as maybe they once did. And so I think hype is important, but I think there can be a fine line between, not enough and too much. And what I think is going to be more interesting, because at least now we have such a decades and decades and decades long stuff, that these legacy series, the most interesting, and this is not manga related, but this is kind of anime related, Cowboy Bebop used to be, and maybe still is considered to some, but used to be kind of like a gateway anime, because obviously you had the Naruto's, Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, Fruits Baskets was kind of big too, I guess, if you want to go like into a different genre demographic. But I'm thinking of Toonami, right? Sailor Moon is a good example. Which I'm going to start reading Sailor Moon. This is completely off topic, but I bought this box set, Sailor Moon box set. I'm gonna give Sailor Moon a shot. I actually never read or watched it as a kid, so we'll see what I think of Sailor Moon. But Cowboy Bebop used to be that gateway anime, and while I think Attack on Titan and My Hero Academia is probably now the gateway to introduce someone that has maybe not read or watched manga, like, I think that used to be the anime where you were like, oh yeah, anime is for kids, blah, blah, blah. Like, check out Cowboy Bebop. I think while I hold it in high regard, I can see now that maybe that hype and the decades since it's been released has not maybe helped it, age well, right? And so when do we get to that point where someone can say, I love Naruto, and Naruto has become such a massive thing that someone getting into this stuff is going to be like, yeah, it's fine, but it doesn't hit the same as someone that was kind of experiencing it when it was coming out, or experiencing it in, maybe 10 years ago. I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just interesting. Like, that's the thing. I think it's just an interesting thought of, do you hold legacy series to the same standard as something coming out today? Or is it a higher standard because of the hype and reverence they have around it? And I don't think I can actually answer that, and that's kind of why I came to you guys, is like, there are series that I will never be able to judge without a bias. I can never look at Dragon Ball and be like, I get it, I get why someone wouldn't like that. I'll never get that. I can just be honest with you. But it's so rooted in how I grew up and stuff, And I don't think Dragon Ball cannot be overhyped to me because I have that personal connection to it. And I think it's the same when it goes with your first manga series that you read. Whatever your first manga series was in your collection, whether it be for me, like I bought the Dragon Ball Z box set, but I would consider the first manga series that started my collection 20th Century Boys. And that's why if you've watched any of my videos besides this one, like I've mentioned 20th Century Boys, and I'm kind of part of the problem because I'm like, oh, this series kind of got me into this, kind of changed my mind of what manga was. Because to me, anime and manga was, hey, I'm gonna punch that guy. Hey, I'm gonna power up. It's over 9,000. You know, that's what it was to me. You know, Naruto and the Hidden Leaf Village, right? Because that's what I came in contact with, and that's what I knew. But then reading a series like 20th Century Boys and seeing that manga and the stories that it's telling can be more than just that, I'll never be able to judge 20th Century Boys without a bias because it connected with me. And that story kind of changed my whole thought process. And I think we all have those. You know, it might not be 20th Century Boys, it might not be Dragon Ball, it might not be even in that genre and demographic. It might be stuff that I've never even heard of, right? Like, there might be series out there that we'll never be able to judge biasly. And, you know, when a popular series is that, when it connects with people, I think My Hero is a perfect example because, you know, it's anime is finally ending. Its manga ended a few years ago. I did a whole video. Boy, what a video that was. It's like 3 hours long where I read through the whole series. You know, that was probably a lot of people's first anime. And while, you know, since I'm a little older, it wasn't like my first, like I can kind of judge it what I feel is fairly. But I think it's okay for someone to be like, dude, this was like my first love. It's my first love, you know? Deku, Bakugo. So, you know, is it up to us to realize when a series gets really hyped that, you know, to take all that stuff into account, I guess. And I think when we experience legacy series like I did with Full Metal, I think it's okay to judge it a little differently. And I think that it does have its good and bad sides. Like, I think that me reading that series and enjoying most of it and realizing that, oh, I can totally understand, you know, why people think it's so great, but it just didn't hit that way for me. And it doesn't mean that Edward, Alphonse, and their story is bad. It just means that that story didn't connect with me like it did with everybody else. But I definitely enjoyed the series. And I'm glad I finally read through a series that's been sitting in my manga collection forever. And a series that has been held in such high regard. And while maybe, you know, it's not going to make a top 5, top 10 list for me, to finally be able to kind of be a part of the conversation and to experience something that means so much to so many people was really fun. And I'm really glad that I finally sat down and binge read the whole thing. But yeah, man, I was just thinking about legacy series and series that their hype maybe at a certain point turned from a good thing to a really bad thing for them. But honestly, can I be honest with you, because you made it to the end of this video, I'm just trying to get back into the mode of making YouTube videos. And I really want to talk about this because it's a series that I feel like always gets brought up into conversations with top 10s. And honestly, I just wanted to hit the record button. Yeah, so sorry about the lack of uploads. I'm working on that. You know what I mean? But as always, I appreciate you guys. And what do you think, man? Like, obviously, you know, we should always make our own decisions when it comes to hyped up series, but Can you think of a time where the hype of a series was a detriment to your enjoyment when you read it or watched it? But yeah, as always, I appreciate you guys wholeheartedly that made it to the end of this video. Hopefully you got something out of it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And hopefully I will be a little better about making YouTube videos. But as always, I hope if you have a bad day, it gets better. If you're having a good day, it becomes fantastic. I'll see you next time.